lot of people have been viewing the reading of Into the Light, and they've been asking when the release date for that is.
Okay. Tor likes the book. Okay. We have not yet talked about a specific time slot for it. I am guessing that it will be 2020 in part because I hope people won't shoot me when they find out about this, but there will not be a Safehold book in 2020. With the concussion and the illnesses and the travel schedule, I haven't been able to get it written. Sorry. That being the case, I would imagine that Tor would look to release this book sometime in 2020 in the slot that otherwise would have been the Safehold slot.
Okay.
And that probably means second or third quarter of 2020. I don't have any confirmation of that. I haven't talked to anybody at Tor about it. That's just my best guess as to how it will play out. I really, really, really like the book. And I think Tor does too. The only thing wrong with the book is that the character of Dave Dvorak, I really didn't plan to write a sequel to this book. When I wrote it, I was planning on getting back to it much further down the timeline. And then I found out that it was the first book in a major new series. I found that out from Tor when they sent me my copy of the advanced reader copies. That's also when I found out that it would be supported by a major signing tour. That was the first that we'd heard about that. So I was like, say what? Which was where I missed yet another of the twins' birthdays. Okay. But anyway, my original game plan was to return to this substantially further down the road. But when it's the first book in a major series, you kind of I can't really just jump over all the interesting stuff while they're rebuilding the planet and everything else. So I was kind of stuck with the viewpoint characters that I'd created in the original book. And I like the viewpoint characters in the original book. The only real problem is that for anybody who knows us, that some of those characters are going to be real familiar. And with Dave Dvorak in particular, I tried to find a way to kind of divert him from center stage as much as he is. And it just wasn't a way to do it. The structure of the first book dictated that in the second book. And it works. But I'm kind of like, was not the original game plan. He was supposed to have done all the stuff he's doing in this book, but had been retired by the time I got to where the book picked back up. And unfortunately, he has to actually do the stuff to make the storyline accessible to the reader. So, worked out that way. Sorry. And sometime very soon now, Richard Fox and I will be beginning work on the prequel series to In Fury Born. Okay. Which will be kind of cool because immodesty time. Okay. The Dragon Award for Military Science Fiction that I didn't win. Okay. Richard won. Okay. So, what can I say? But I think that I expect the series to be good. I expect working with Richard on it to move it in directions that I didn't originally. I don't know if I told you that I actually began the prequel to Path of the Fury while Jim Bain was still alive. And I'd written 85,000 words when I realized that I hadn't made the technology involved sufficiently less sophisticated than what was available by Alicia's time. Okay. So that, and technology determines weapon mix, and weapon mix determines tactics. Okay, strategy, not so much, but tactics, yeah, big time. So everything I'd done to that point in terms of naval combat and so forth wouldn't work. So I had to kind of drop back and start over again. And oh man, I was fighting it. I was doing well to get 500-600 words a day. Whereas when a book is going well for me, I'm getting between 5,000 and 7,000 in a typical day. So Jim Bain called me and said, how's it coming? I said, oh man, I'm really fighting this. And he said, well, why don't you write something else? I said, because I got a contract to deliver this one. And he says, and who is the contract with, David? And I said, with you. And he says, then if I tell you to go write something else so that we both have income, go do it. And I said, oh, okay. So I did. About 3 or 4 years went by. Jim calls me up and he says, Dave. I said, yeah. He says, I had a thought. It's always risky. It was always risky when Jim had thoughts. I mean, most of them were good, but some of them had a tendency to explode and go in unexpected directions. But anyway, so he said, you got what, 60,000 words done on that I said, no, more like 80, 85. Huh. He said, well, I got thinking, we change the names, file off the serial numbers, and do it as a separate standalone novel. I said, can't. He said, why not? I said, because I don't have it anymore. He says, you mean you cannot lay hands upon it immediately? I said, no. I said, my hard drive crashed. I'm on my 3rd computer since then. And I didn't back it up on floppies because I wasn't going to do anything with it. He said, so basically you threw it away. I said, well, yeah, I guess you could put it that way. He said, repeat after me. I will never throw away 85,000 words of a David Weber novel again. Okay, fine. But so we're finally actually going to get that written, and I'm sure somewhere Jim is like, well, finally, But that is going to keep me from jumping on the next installment in this story, and since this won't be coming out before the second half of 2020 at the earliest, it's a project I can afford to let sit longer than some of the others. Hopefully, I will be getting there's an Honorverse anthology that just disappeared into a black hole several years ago. Stories are here. Okay, it just got lost in the production queue, and I need to get it shifted back around and back online, which will make the Honorverse readers a little happier, less unhappier,
less unhappy.
less unhappier. I'm sorry, but life has just been crazy, especially. Okay, so I turned 67 in October. And I've discovered I'm not as resilient as I used to be. I mean, I imagine things like concussions contribute to that too. But there's a limit to the number of hours, midnight hours, that I can burn anymore. That was how I got into trouble the year before the concussion. I just had basically pushed myself into a state of exhaustion. It wasn't anybody beating on me to make me do it. It was just me beating on myself and no longer being 30. Okay. I mean, when I was 30, I could have done what I was doing at 65, I think, at that point, 64, 65. Not so much. I think that's the hardest part for me of getting older. My brain still works. It just can't spend the time turned up to intensity. And because of the concussion, I got thoroughly out of the groove on writing. There's a degree of focus that you have to have. So in the last few months, I've done several short fiction pieces that I'm really, really happy with. And Into the Light, in a lot of ways, was short fiction pieces for me because I was doing it in chapter chunks on a very firmly established outline. that Chris and I had put together, a synopsis. So I could treat each of them as a separate entity, as a bead on the string, if you will. That's not how I write solo novels. It's not the way I've ever learned to write solo novels. And so until I can get back into that groove, my solo output is really suffering. I feel like I'm getting there. The quality of the short stuff that I've turned out is very encouraging to me. But it's just a matter of my getting the blocks of time when I can focus on what I'm doing and let the storyline go where it will. And the amount of travel and conventions and stuff that we committed to this year didn't help. Next year's better, but we're still probably overcommitted. And I hate the fact that that has to be a consideration. It didn't have to be as much when I was younger and when I had that focus. Because I could go to the con. I'd lose like 2 weeks of writing time for each con that I went to, but only 2 weeks. And I could get back into the groove like that when I got home. Now, each con is more like 3 weeks of lost time. And at the moment, I'm finding it difficult to get back into the groove at all. So there's several factors at play.